Welcome back. We're glad you're still with us. And for those that are just joining us, welcome to our Kickstarter segment of Morning at NTV. Now, over the next 40 minutes or so, we shall be dissecting what priorities are for the youth in the upcoming 2024-2025 budget that is due to be read on the 13th of June. With me in the studio, I have very youthful analysts who will be helping us understand what youth engagement is and what the budgeting and planning process for the country must do in order to involve the youth, but most importantly, take on their ideas in economic transformation. Africa has a vibrant youthful population. However, the potential among this demographic has not yet been realized across the continent, and since 2010 there has been experiences of a series of positive changes because of youth-led activism demanding legitimate rights, particularly reforms in governance. Globally, there is an increasing recognition that young people not only have the right to decide how resources are allocated, but they also have that valuable knowledge and viewpoints to establish good governance. Ahead of the reading of the budget in June, the questions are being asked. What are the priorities for the youth? What has the youthful population been up to, and how can it be at the forefront of the much needed socio-economic transformation? I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Emmanuel Kisembo on my extreme left. He is coming from the Bunyoro Kitara area and is one of the most recognized youth leaders there. Mr. Kisembo, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
On his right is Maxon Mohwezi, a member of the National Resistance Movement Youth League. Very welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to have the opportunity once again.
You're most welcome. And on my immediate left is He's head of institutions at the National Unity Platform, David Musili. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chris. It is a pleasure to be here this morning. Good morning, viewers.
Great. Now that the atmosphere is young, so to speak, first and foremost, in line with our debate this morning, I would like to get your submissions or overview on the budget process so far. It's done and dusted. What we're waiting for is the reading of this particular budget, and then we see how government is going to allocate resources to ensure that those key priorities and objectives of national and economic growth are achieved. And without necessarily selecting what particular order we shall take, Mr. Musili, ahead of the reading of the budget, I'm sure you've had incursions into what is entailed in it. What's your take, and maybe the take of many of the youth leaders within the National Unity Platform?
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. You know, the budgeting process, it takes a lot of, with a lot of other stakeholders. First of all, it always begins with the drafting of the national budget framework paper that is presented to the Parliament, that is submitted to Parliament, with the projections, and it is again passed by Parliament with recommendation. So for me, what is very important here is whether these recommendations are looked at with a keen eye from the Ministry of Finance. Because of the other stakeholders, I got a chance to be part of the alternative budget led by the very able Right Honorable Joel Senyonyi recently, being that they are part of the stakeholders. And for us, we're very, very interested on how, of course, even in his speech was very deliberate about the reckless borrowing of this country, of the government, which has actually worsened the foreign debt budget, the foreign debt burden. Yes, debt burden. And because you find in various sectors, much of the money is borrowed from, let's say, from World Bank, from IMF, and this money is not utilized at the end of the day. So what would be important is for us to know that even when there are these processes and stakeholders, are they taken for granted, or it is just like a casual talk? Because we need to necessitate that as much as we are the youthful generation, we must also be, we must put this country to be accountable to us. First of all, as we are waiting the reading of the budget, for me, I'm very, very interested on how the budget framers, or even those that draft the architectures of the budget, would be it would be very important if they put into consideration, first of all, the human capital development, which means, for example, the population health safety, which takes over, for example, these health facilities. While we are looking at the youthful generation, what baffles me most of the times is when we get excited because of the percentages. You've just been very deliberate on and with choice of words about the entire continent, Africa. We have the biggest percentage, but sometimes I get to ask myself a lot of questions, and sometimes it leaves me puzzled when I ask myself, much as we are excited of the biggest percentages that we have. For instance, we are over 78%, but where do the youth go? At the end of the day, it is because of the population health, for example, safety is not cared for. There are no drugs in hospital. Therefore, the lifespan of Ugandans and at large for Africans is narrowing every day. You find, Chris, for someone to be buried at the age of 50, some people are even excited. They celebrate the life of that disease because there are very few youths that reach that age at this time. So for us, we think, for example, thinking about as we put in consideration as we are going to read this budget, it must so much be debated and be seen in the light of the human capital development. Okay. One of which is education. As we are going to read this budget, as we speak now, the students scheme has been suspended as we speak today.
Which particular one? Okay, we shall be delving into the nitty-gritty of every particular sector, and that, of course, the education will be looked at in light of what you say. However, let me just move on to Mr. Muhwezi. Your overview of the budget, I'm interested more in the process that leads to the crafting of the national budget and what the youth hand is, Chris, in it.
You see, Chris,
before we even look at whether the priorities are there or not.
You see, Chris, the issue is whether there is will for government or the government to have the young people engage or be part of the crafting or promulgation of the budget framework paper. That is the first thing. It is public knowledge that executive proposes and crafts this framework paper. And now the question we should interrogate is, are young people part of the executive? Me and you, all of us here today, before it goes to Parliament for adoption or even debate, are young people part of that process in the executive? Do we have executive members who are youthful? The question is yes. The question is, the answer is yes. 2, do we have quantitative and qualitative participation and engagement of young people in the crafting and promulgation of budget framework paper? The question is yes. The answer is yes. However, it is not enough. When we talk of quantitative, we look at how many young people are really part of the cabinet right now, Chris. How many compared to the 70% of the total population of the country being young. Now, if we have 10, for instance, let's assume we have 10 or 15 out of 82 members of cabinet.
There's quite a substantial number of young.
But do they actually participate in discussion? The answer is yes. Do they ask questions? Yes. Do they answer questions asked to them? Yes. So now we go to qualitative participation and engagement.
When they are asked the questions, exactly. What do they bring forth?
Absolutely. Which goes to because you see, at the end of the day, you look at what has been produced and what has been the priorities. That's when you realize that actually the young people have been involved. I must say, it is not enough. All of us here agree that yes, young people are participating in this budget framework paper, but it is not enough. It's not enough because we are looking at 70% of the total population in Uganda. You're looking at 65% of the total population in East Africa. You're looking at 62% of the total population in Africa. Are they actually extremely and meaningfully participating in budget allocation? Because let me tell you, Chris, if the planning and budgeting and allocation and dispensation, but also implementation of this budget has no young people meaningfully participating, then the future is not guaranteed. You're talking of 70% of the total population. Then it means the future of the country. It means the future of Africa, the future of the East Africa. So are young people part of this? Whatever you're doing, whatever you're planning is for the future. It is not for today, isn't it? So are the young people part of their tomorrow? Are they even part of today? You can answer that.
All right, interesting there. But of course, I'm glad that you put that question out there for us. And being on national television, that gives every one of us an opportunity to actually scrutinize and see exactly whether this is actually happening. But Mr. Chisembo is a youth leader in Bunyoro, and most of the work that you engage in is community-led. Now, within communities, youth are integral in the rollout of government programs because they are usually targets and beneficiaries. I do not know whether at district level, at council level, the input of the youth in Bunyoro is seen, heard, and well articulated so that it can be able to translate to regional and national deliberations, including the formation and crafting of the national budget.
Yeah, well, Chris, that is a very, very good question to put across. But when you talk about the national budgeting and what, let's say that Bunyoro does not enjoy the services that other regions enjoy. Like Bunyoro is in Western. But the services in Bunyoro are not the same as the services in other districts like in Mbarara, Ntungamo, Kiruhura. You will not tell me Kagadi gets the same services as that of Kiruhura, Mbarara, Bushenya, and the others. But to leave that aside,
that is an underlying problem that can be tackled on its own. Yeah.
Let me just give you an overview of the whole process. Remember that every year, a government has to come up with a budget. And government comes out with the policies, pronouncements, and of course it is always the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning that is always responsible, preparing estimates on how the financial year can be ran. Then it is taken to Cabinet. Cabinet approves it. After Cabinet approving it, it has to be taken to Parliament. Then the Parliament will also look at certain clauses and what. And this one is always by 31st of December. Every year. By 31st of December, it should be already with the Parliament. Then from there, actually the theme of this budget, this year's budget, is full monetization of the Ugandan economy through that is commercial agriculture, industrialization, services, and maybe IT. Now, when you look at the budget, it has to be in line with the East African community. It has to be in line, and remember that right now there is need, or there is that need to accelerate economic recovery from the COVID, from the effects of COVID.
That's right.
And to enhance that is now productivity. So you will find that there are other effects also when you leave alone COVID effects. Right now you have Ukraine-Russia war, we have the Hamas and the Israeli war. So you will find that government doesn't have money. Even the donors, you'll find their money is low. So you find that we are talking about right now about 53 trillion shillings. 53 trillion shillings, you'll find 30 trillion should be locally raised, which is very, very hard for our revenue authority here to raise it locally.
It's already in trouble.
Then we are looking at the 29 billion. The 29 billion that is now to support the budget. Then 4 trillion, we are looking at domestic borrowing. Then 10 trillion for now domestic refinancing. So you'll find the budget has moved from sector-based budgeting to now program-based budgeting. So we are looking now at the 53 trillion. 19 has to go to fund, to settle the dates. 19 trillion. So out of the 19 trillion, how many trillions are we left with? We are left with the human capital development, that is 10 trillion. We are left with the integrated infrastructure, 4 trillion. Then also governance and security, about 8 trillion. That is now the breakdown of everything. So when you look at the private sector development, it has only 2 trillion. Then agro-industrialization, it has 1.8 trillion. And of course, we have sustainability, energy and development, about 1.3 trillion. So you'll find that that is an overview of what we are talking about. This is now 2024-2025 financial year.
That's right.
That is what we are talking about. But when you look at the costs of living, like now the youth in Bunyoro, where I come from, even countrywide, you will find that there are few youths that can afford to start businesses. Very few youths that can manage. Remember right now, less than 20% of Ugandans can manage and service their businesses, less than 20%. But now we are looking at about 80% of the youth. So you'll find that there are very few youths that can manage or start up businesses. Then also, the borrowing rates in these commercial banks has raised over 20% plus. There is no commercial bank that is below 20%. So you look at the borrowing also. Government is competing with us. Government itself goes to these same banks to borrow. And for them, they have security.
The government is
yes,
secure,
they have security. They can easily maneuver and get that loan. So we are competing for the
our
same.
own government.
Yes, we are competing with the same.
Of course, there have been questions for government to stay out of the domestic market, and I hope that deliberations within the Ministry of Finance and the economic corridors will look out for that. But allow me interject and perhaps observe that we might be asking for too much, that the youth be involved at a more active level, because they are already grappling with a lot of challenges, including unemployment, including a lack of access to education. So who are you going to speak to in order to get their views when they are actually not educated, they are actually not employed? You will struggle to find their views instead of simply registering their concerns.
You see, Chris,
very quickly.
Me and you, all of us here agree that Uganda is a developing country.
No doubt.
A developed country. And therefore, it is a fact, a working fact, that we are running a budget of very little money. Now the question is how this money must be effectively used to make sure, on the perspective of young people, are productive, highly productive.
That's right.
Because you see, I can tell you the young people are very, very much involved in business. They are at school, they're in IT, they need skills. And for me, when it comes to 9.234 trillion of human capital development, I think it is good business. It is good business where we have young people achieving skills, acquiring skills for governance and leadership, skills for production. Let me tell you, Chris, you're either selling a service or a good. The young people must be engaged in mass production. You import, you sell, or you're serving a particular service. Like you, Chris, now. You don't need to go into manufacturing. You're offering a service. You get it. So can the young people actually be empowered economically? Can they be empowered socially, administratively, and politically to make sure we have an all-round productive youth perspective that can contribute to strategic bottlenecks of the country? Let me tell you, this whole budget is supposed to respond to society prerequisites, challenges. You have had all the sectors. We have seen all the sectors. But what are the current strategic bottlenecks that are scattering the country? When you talk of corruption, when you talk of education, you talk of infrastructure, you talk of, can the young people actually have access to, like my brother was saying, very, very cheap electricity, for them to be able to manufacture, but also engage in business? Can the young people borrow money at low interest? Is that possible? If we can make sure, and for me, I really want this financial year, the government to be hard on public expenditure.
I do hear
we have a lot of money.
Yeah, Mr. Mhoezi.
We look, and on paper we can say it is small.
Yeah.
The money is very, very little. But is it effective? Can we make sure we are extremely frugal and we squeeze this money? Let everyone be patriotic. Let everyone be frugal. If the money is for youth,
that is an eternal appeal that is made by everyone on a daily basis. The need for those that make the decisions to be frugal, the need for them to be patriotic, to think about this country and the future that we should be able to bequeath to the next generation. But let me come to Mr. Musiri, and within the context of the National Unity Platform, the opposition party enjoys what I can call a wave among the youth that should be able to carry forward some dividends, especially when it comes to in what particular activities they engage in and the how. Now, one would say the youth on their own and the opposition National Unity Platform do not have the powers to effect some of the critical interventions, including disbursement of money, but the parish development model offers an opportunity. And I know, in as much as you might have alternative budget priorities as an opposition party, the PDM is what is rolling out across the country, and the youth are being primed as key beneficiaries. What is your take on that, and whether has there been any study undertaken by your party to know how this particular program is rolling out there, and if you're to carry forth any positives before you perhaps attack, how is the PDM being used, especially for the advantage and on the part of the leaning young people in this country?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Chris. You started from a biased kind of, when you said before NUP comes to attack, so
as a moderator, I've grappled on a daily basis with the need for panelists and analysts to first ensure that their point of view, as discussed, before the show is put across before they can attend to my questions.
That's true.
So I have learned a defense mechanism. All right.
Okay, it is very interesting. However, for us as NUP, that's why I started from what are the interests in the budget. For example, what is interested to the youth? What are the sectors that, for example, the youths are involved in, which is very, very major. And for me, I think that is just part of what I was giving as an explanation. One of which would be, one is skilling, employment, farming, which is the agriculture sector, small enterprises, education, talent, mostly the music and sports. The budgeting should be anchored on such grounds, because if you look at even small enterprises, because that is where you are talking about, for example, the parish model, the government has had a lot of such, the Myoga. Now, for us, we shall come back to, can any normal indigenous Ugandan, for example, apply for parish model and achieve whatever? Is it given on the same level? Can Msili David at one day wake up today and be also, for example, we apply for the same with my brother Muhwezi here. Will I be given chance to
what are you suggesting?
No, because of what is
no, the question is clear.
Explanatory.
If the National Unity Platform, leaning youth, have attempted to access PDM and perhaps been denied, that is something you can share. If there are those who have actually taken on the initiative, is it transforming them, or are they doing the thing right in order to ensure that the next youth can also benefit?
What I can tell you, there have been several attempts for people to apply for such, but you know, just someone disclosing that is part of NUP, you know how the NUP supporters.
Chris, can I chip in?
Would you?
Can I just?
Would you just a moment?
Let me help my brother.
No, you will. Of course, help will come at any one point in time. But please do finalize the submission. I need to understand it. Are you required to state what political party or organization you are in order to access money? I don't think the PDM people ask that, do they?
No. You know.
Do you appear in red berets?
No, of course, but people who are supporters, for example, today we are on the channel, we are on the panel, and my brother is dressed up the way he's dressing. Sometimes because of how the youth have been crippled, suffocated, sometimes you may present yourself in a different manner. For example, if Chris, you show up, for example, with a T-shirt with Robert Sentamu Kyagulanyi, His Excellence, that would be also a crime. You know, this is a crime for someone to affiliate, for example, to a certain given party. No,
from the question.
I'm not running away from the question. As I said, that there have been several attempts, but of course the process is not free and fair.
No, of course, it's important
that everyone that, for example, that
you'll forgive me for interjecting, and I don't want to be harsh or appear to be putting you, on the spot, but there is need to understand the context within which this money is being accessed.
Yeah,
it is important. When you say there are mishaps, loopholes, we need to understand what they are, because many of the people leave us hanging. We are wondering. We are wondering when it comes to this particular process, or it has been primed at one that should benefit just about everybody, but across the country, what are the actual case studies on the ground that you can say no or yes, this is what is happening?
In fact, Chris,
please just do quickly. You said yours was an interjection. You don't go on answering the question.
Are you giving information?
Yeah, we're giving it.
Rejoinder, so to speak.
By December 31st, 70% of the money supposed to be at each and every parish had gone there.
According to
the committee of parliament that was carrying out an oversight. Maybe I can provide that information.
I'm trying to check out some of it.
This parish development model is simply, in simple terms, supposed to drive people who are out of the cash economy into the cash economy. The poor people, the common people, the wananchi that do not make it to something like 3,000 a day. People who have been in subsistence agriculture and farming and economy for a long period of time. We want people to start making money. Homestead is to have something that can bring in money every day, something that can generate money. Now, this is a pan-Ugandan and multidimensional program that is extremely non-partisan. That is why 35% of that money goes to the young people at each and every parish. There is no way, there is nowhere it is written that, ladies and gentlemen, this money must go to a yellow young person, like Comrade Musiri is saying. I have not heard. I am one of the most informed young people in the country. Musiri, my brother, has been with me for some good time. I have not had any NUP member. I have not had any NUP councillor or member of parliament protesting anywhere at a particular platform that, look, the government has tried to suffocate, sabotage, or scupper NUP members from accessing this money. Actually, when you go up country, people are jubilating. People are getting this money.
Chris, I want to give my friend information.
Thanks for the rejoinder.
I thought it was just a rejoinder. Anyway.
He has eaten into his time.
But
so
anyway,
quickly finalize the submission.
Quickly,
we need to understand.
I want to inform colleagues here that much as he's saying that it is non-partisan, most of the youths are all driven in the same vehicle. There are deliberate efforts to, of course, I think it might also be right. It is self-explanatory that whoever sees the youth, they affiliate them to NUP.
No,
I want to tell you, it is right. You were given time. I have been to prisons. I don't know if this my brother has had information. I had time also to check with the prisons. And you, Chris, if this parish development model was in favor for every Ugandan, why would you think all hawkers now are put into jail? I am telling you, if you look at the total population of prisoners today in Ruzira, you would find that over 50% are the young people who are trying to engage in these small enterprises. You think they are running away. When I tell you that the young people have been castigated by their own government, I would tell you that sometimes the government is at war with their own youth because of affiliating them to the opposition. I am telling you today, it is very hard for the youth to acquire a loan, even in just a bank, these commercial banks, without saying a lot. It's not an interview, as you said, as you deliberately say that maybe do they ask you which party do you come from and wherever. Today I am telling you, Chris, Ugandans are running like headless chicken in their own country. There is a lot of people that have been crippled. They use, look, leave alone these of the Muwezes here who are flamboyant in this country. They are enjoying all resources. I am telling you, even what we think that this man has been dispatched to these parishes, it is not there. It is a myth that we are talking about here.
The gentleman on our extreme left has an opportunity to engage with the communities rather across the region, and perhaps might have a bird's eye view and a vantage point perspective on exactly how this money goes out there. But I want us to focus on what could be the hits, because in budgeting for youth, I think fundamentally it's about putting resources into programs that will enhance the quality of life, will enhance their education, will enhance their ability to do business. And that is what budgeting is about. Whether it actually hits the target is what we need to interrogate. For Uganda, there has been consistent misses on the part of the youth. Now, this time round, is there any opportunity? And if it is there, what do we identify as the quickest wins that youth can get?
You see, Mr. Chris, Uganda's politics is now on the media. Just like you can see Muwezi is fighting on media to justify himself.
I don't see him fighting.
I'm telling you, so long as you come on the media, you justify yourself, they don't want to.
Why is it so for Muwezi and not for
No, and now, you see, when you come here, we are looking at Ugandans. I am a senior party member of NRM. But once there is a wrong, I say this is a wrong.
Yeah.
I have aspired as a vice chairperson Western. I have aspired as Viaga East flag bearer NRM. I have aspired as Yala MP NRM. So this PDM you are talking about, it is just on media.
It is a myth. It is just a story.
I'm telling you, it is on media.
Because as the viewers are
our
listening
people are really suffering down at the grassroots. This money, to get it, first of all, I will not buy the idea that it is political based on which party. That one, I won't buy that idea. But how to access this money is a very big problem. Before you access the money, you are required to pay some money, you bribe. The money comes into your pocket when it is almost below 50% of what you're supposed to get. Just do a quick assessment. This PDMO has been there for some time. How many people have been elevated? How many people can afford 3 meals in a day? Even right now, I'm appearing on TV. I don't know what I'm going to take. I'm a senior party member of NRM. I don't even have food in my home. Then how about that one who is struggling for the PDMO? Let us put ourselves in the shoes of these people who are struggling. Our people, some of these RDCs down there, they are frustrating the whole process. Right away from the parish level and the way they go through the whole thing. So the most important thing, Uganda should deal with the institution of corruption. Corruption is failing everything. Muwezi is just talking on TV, thinking that everything is just gotten the way you think. No, I want to assure you this. Go down to the grassroots, go to Kagadi, go to Kakumiro, go where I can bring you youths. Yes, I can bring you my own youth in my own constituency. Intervene with, find out from them. This money, to get it on this national media, it is very hard. If president, because now is the only person who can intervene in this, and find a way how this money, this youth, can get it easily without going that long process, without remitting money. If you cannot remit money to these people, you cannot get this money. Then another thing, you are talking about the PDMO, but as Uganda, you have seen floods have hit Burundi, they have hit Tanzania, they have hit Dubai. Even we don't have contingency fund. How do you deceive me that you have this money when you don't have even a contingency fund for this country? So the budget is on, but it does not give you a guarantee that this money that has been allocated will go for that. You will find that this money can be channeled at any time. And that's why you have gotten supplementary budgets. Meaning that this money, which is always gotten, does not serve the purpose. So money will be allocated. This has gone to PDM, but at any time it can be pulled. And sometimes this money comes back to the National Treasury, by the way, when it is not touched. The time they release the money, very, very late. He's telling us by 31st, this money is already there. But by 31st of December, that is when cabinet is taking the budget to Parliament. Then how did this money reach by 31st of December last year to these parishes?
Interesting submission.
We
there.
want banks.
I'm going to
at parish levels. We want
Before
banks
you do,
at no, you will not interject. For how many times will you interject?
we are going to ask.
I was submitting, he interjected.
All right.
He himself interjected. For how long?
He might have to choose another word.
Because
let us be very proper.
All right.
Let us have banks at parishes. If these youth apply for this money, let it directly be channeled. If we have some banks at parish levels, since it is
can I provide
parish
some information? Can I provide some information to my
He has allowed you, no doubt.
You see, I like the passion with which my brother is speaking, and the fact that he's a file member.
I see it's mostly resignation.
Yeah. Resignation.
Not passion. There is no passion. He's resigned
because you see, this money goes every financial year, and he's aptly aware that this money does not go. We did not start with 100 million shillings. We started with 45 million shillings. Okay? And if he was very, very attentive, I said by December last year, 70%, I even attached that. I can provide him information.
70% is a huge percentage.
Yes, but that is what is provided.
Yeah,
it is provided, but does it reach the beneficiaries?
You seem to suggest. Gentlemen, hold it. All right, all of you hold it. You seem to suggest that when 70% is dispersed and there are major loopholes, the 30% will rectify it.
I was still coming.
Which might not be true.
Okay. So now the 70%, what we are saying, just hold on. Just hold on.
Or you are just on paper.
All right. Finalize that because Musiri might also ask to interject.
I just wanted to give him information.
Can I finish?
Musiri has information. Musiri, give us information.
Can I finish?
And my information is information. It's not like the
give
one
us
of...
information,
No,
please.
Not the one of
my point.
Information.
Can I finish? Let me finish my point.
Information.
For you, you are not even giving information.
All right, gentlemen.
Give.
I've given you the opportunity. Provide information.
You see, Chris, while my brother is meandering with statements,
Give information.
it is just public knowledge that some of this money that he's talking about that was dispatched and taken, and it is already there in service, this is the money that is used to bribe them, just like it has been a system of this government. That if it needs to bribe one more ways, and for this one being part of the family.
Could you be more specific?
When
you make these accusations on national television, I'm not supposed to take it, bribe them.
This is not speculation. This is not
Where are your
speculation.
facts
As we are
about
talking
these
about corruption,
Yeah.
I am telling you that government can afford to spend over 50 or 100 or 500 millions to bribe one more ways to come to a national TV here, purport to seem like everything is well in this country, and that's why you are seeing him trying to deliberate. He wants to make things meet here. You know, that's why he's paid. And
tourism sector.
And this is the problem we have with the youth. The problem with the youth is not actually being on the table.
Gentlemen, we cannot. Let's not take this conversation to a Marua joint.
Yeah.
No,
right?
because really, let's keep it to Morning at NTV and then deliberate so that those who are watching can understand. Exactly
for me, Chris, when I provide statistics and data and information, I want counter statistics and people to prove me wrong. That's why we have NUP and NRM here. If I provide particular data, provide your case as NUP. You get it? I am saying parish development model, even the president has been on the case, that it is not 100%. Okay, when it comes to implementation, we have had issues of corruption. We have had issues of.
Then, if you allow corruption,
listen. No. Listen. Just hold on. We are saying that medium is not 100% in terms of
So if it is not 100%,
hold on.
then
If you can hold your breath,
no,
you can write
consent.
somewhere.
You consent. It is not your time.
You can write
Then
somewhere.
Okay, we can accept it is 50%. Tell us areas where it is
Whatever you
50%.
are
We have-
deliberating
we
here,
have-
it has not been benefited.
Issues
Apologies.
of implementation and issues of corruption have been cited, and all of us accept that. Okay, but that does not actually put down and sink the fact that there are so many groups that have come up and actually testified that they have benefited. You get what I'm saying? It is not as my brother is painting it. It cannot be. If he has, then provide facts. I also agree that 100 million per parish is not enough. We have very, very huge parishes that can only swallow 100 million, and it's not enough. Okay? So my perspective and understanding is that my brother, researched as he is, my brother, informed as he is, should be informed and aware of issues that go on in a society and what
All right,
society
gentlemen,
is.
it's fast approaching the bottom of the hour of 8 o'clock, and I'm going to have to wrap this up. And of course, no doubt, I do not intend to muzzle any arguments or perspective, but if we are to identify and help, if we are to identify,
we made sampling,
gentlemen,
be very specific.
we
on
shall be
this
asked
panel.
questions, and as youth leaders or as youth activists, you need to be able to provide answers and advice on what can be done for the government to be able to move forward, especially on aspects including widening and deepening the tax base. It's
Correct.
important. Are youth engaged in commercial agriculture actively, or are we grappling with a case where many do not even want to associate with agriculture, hence difficulty in even making it commercial for them? There's a lot that we are going to talk about. We go for a break and ensure that some of the issues that we are discussing, and of course others that will be coming up a little bit later, are completely streamlined. Then the wrap-up will happen. Do stay with us. Welcome back. I'm glad you're still with us. It's the Kickstarter, and we are speaking youth budgeting as well as planning for the national economy. The debate has been very lively and sometimes bordered on getting a little bit into the line that may not be the one you would expect, but can you expect when the youth come together to discuss matters over the day? In the break, I had a submission about the fact that in 1980, in the run-up to 1986, when the National Resistance Movement, then NRA, came to power, the thinking at the time was that the youth of the time, including President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, understood the problems of the country then and decided to take action. Does that mean that the youth today do not understand the challenges of the day and as such cannot take action? But let's posit it the other way. What if they understand the challenge of the day? How can they effect change in that particular steed? Is it to go full throttle into commercial agriculture and become agents of production so that the capital base can increase and later on the tax base does increase? So, or can they be activists and continue to lament about some of the challenges that they face? What are the answers to the questions of the day? In studio, I have with me a youth leader from Bunyoro, Emmanuel Chisembu. I also have Maxson Mohwezi, a member of the National Resistance Movement Youth League, but also David Musiri, who is the head of institutions at the National Unity Platform. Gentlemen, I do not want to continue the lamentation party. As youth and youth leaders, what are the solutions that are available? If you were to advise the government on how to move forward, I'm sure many of us would simply say, first take the older people out of the institutions so that we can begin the reconditioning of the mindset. Because it is very problematic when you have to discuss something with a 78-year-old whose understanding and context is still buried in 1970. There are people who are more concerned about the fact that we need to be peaceful as we sleep in the night, not knowing that the context perhaps must change, that peace or to be able to sleep in the night should not be the most existential threat of the time. It is a given. People must be peaceful. Countries must get these things. Because after all, no one is saying, I'm serving as president, I'm serving as prime minister for free. People are paid a job. Now, Mr. David Musiri, let's help the country. If we were given positions of power right now, what would be those critical interventions that prime the youth to allow for the kind of change that any one person might want for Uganda? What do you advise the government? In fact, right now, advise Mr. Ramadan Gobi, because he's at the center of crafting and ensuring that we get to where we want to be.
Yeah, for me, I would advise government and Ramadan and Gobi that instead of spending, because when we look at the projections by the National Budget Framework paper of governance and security, it is over 7.4 trillions versus other sectors. I think it is, when we look at the 52 trillions, it takes a big percentage. For me, I would think government could at least, because what do we want to procure in terms of security? Is it tear gas? Are we at war with our own people? Do we have any war that we need to, we even have some crisis. We have an impasse, for example, in the trade sector, the IFRIS. Me and my brother here, we were fighting aims at Makerere University those days, and Ames was also repressed.
You guys have come a long way.
Repressed with Ames was also repressed by ACMIS, and you find all these systems are only to cripple and suffocate the young people. I would advise government to find sectors where they can subsidize. For example, if it is the trade, exemptions are so much important to the local people. For example, the local traders. Why do we prioritize the investors? You know, and some of these companies actually, when you do some deliberate research and interrogate into the business, you find at the end of the day it is the name Shangji, but the real innovator, the enterprise belongs to Muhwezi. So at the end of the day, you see, we are laughing, we can smile, but these things are very serious. I am telling you. Ugandans are looking at us at this national television, and they are crying. They are looking at our insights and how we are vaporing a lot of. We actually, some of us, we are somehow abusive to them. I am telling you, according to the status quo these people are living, I would advise that government, for example, majorly about the impasse of, for example, intern doctors. Why would we have a country where intern doctors are ever on strike and they are supposed to treat the young people? They are supposed to treat the youth. Lack of drugs in hospitals. For me, I would think government, just like our alternative government, prioritize the health sector. That at least Ngobi, right now, today, you should prioritize the health sector. I come from Machinde West. As I have left Machinde today, I believe that a few people have died on the way, just driving them to Chirudu. A lot of potholes. Have you been to Chirudu? Chris,
I haven't been to Chirudu in 3 months.
For your information.
The last time I was there, there were efforts to improve service delivery. I hope that has been achieved, or it's on the...
But instead today you find government is laboring a lot in even actually employing other RDC assistants, over 300 of them, yet we have RDCs and their deputies, so you can imagine which role they are going to play, but they are going to use taxpayers' money, you know. And for example, I believe that government has has left its role to do and their duty to this public, but they have resorted to pay back to regime apologists like my brother.
Thank you very much.
And the rest.
That advice should be taken. Mr. Muhwezi, you spoke about the fact, and this one I'm simply leaking information. During the break, I heard you talk about the fact that the youth in 1980 saw the challenges of the day and acted upon them. I want you to advise the youth today who identify these challenges, what should be their line of action?
You see, Chris, The Wretched of the Earth by Franz Fanon, page around 36.
Wow.
Says that each generation must, out of relative obscurity, identify a particular mission, fulfill it, or betray it. In the same vein, Martin Luther said that if man has not discovered something is to live for, then he shouldn't live.
You're effectively telling the youth they are to blame for their situation, right?
This is our country.
They have not discovered what they want.
This is our country. A generation of very young and dynamic people, without shoes, without ammunition, without guns, without internet, without computer, without cars, and all these electricity and all these things, identified a particular mission at that time. Uganda was a sick nation of Africa, the lame duck, a failed state. They took on that with or without help. They have been in leadership for all these years as a generation. There are generations that contributed to this country in terms of liberating it from coloniality. There's a generation that actually helped in construction of Uganda. And there is also a generation that has liberated the country and created this social order that we are here, you and I, able to discuss. Now, the strategic bottlenecks facing us today are extremely different. We're talking of cheap transport. We don't have cheap transport. We're talking of issues of railway. We're talking of issues of production. We're talking of issues of corruption. We're talking of issues of mass public expenditure. We're talking of issues of education and agriculture, manufacturing and market. Those are the issues that our young people must set their eyes on. The first thing is to participate in politics and leadership. Pick interest in politics and leadership. If you don't, you end up being governed by your inferiors. And what will happen? You go to your room and hold your hands and say, guys are not leading us well.
Thank you very much. Don't add anything to that. Don't go and fold your hands in your rooms. Mr. Chisembo, wrap it up.
Yeah, to me, the youth, first of all, I have been drumming from the time I joined the politics, from LOC levels, that they should come and participate in elections. Because when you look at Ministry of Finance, that will probably start up on how this budget should run, allocate funds here and here. How many youth take part? No one. You come to the cabinet. How many youth sit on that cabinet?
An injection of them.
Very few.
Mr. Mtoro, Mr. Barga.
This is just yesterday.
Okay.
And the average is 68 years of the cabinet. 68 years. So meaning that the youth are almost not anywhere. One of the characteristics of the youth, they like talking to one another because they understand their problems. Then the other is let us put money where it is supposed to be. Like now, tourism. Tourism is bringing money to the country. But little money is injected in tourism, and yet the youth would benefit from that.
All right.
Then administrative costs.
Administrative costs. Bloated public
reduced.
Service.
Today, every minister has a 99, had over 5 vehicles going. But if this fuel can be cut, the security and the what, you will find that we shall go somewhere. The army should be reduced to a smaller, effective one.
Okay, thank
Then
you.
also,
No, I know. There's a lot that we can
yeah.
do. But
So
one thing
once
you
we
must,
can look into the administrative costs,
that will be
then
able to address
automatically
most of the problems.
this country will be heading somewhere.
Time has completely gone. Our clock is ticking. Stephen Mbide is on the ground. Many thanks. Emmanuel Chisembo, Maxon Bohwezi, and David Musiri for the submissions on what the youth can do to ensure